ladies, hey, congratulations for your film Cousins.
Thanks, Dig.
Hey, not a problem, not a problem. My understanding, this is what the biggest movie in New Zealand right now, or this year?
Well, it's been and gone for New Zealand, but yeah, absolutely was #1 while it was in the box office. In a funny way, COVID's been kind of kind to New Zealand movies because it's eliminated some of the hardcore competition from Hollywood.
So this must be a pride and joy that a lot of people in New Zealand get to watch Cousins in the theater. In fact.
Yeah, it's pretty special, and I think too because of COVID, it did in some ways it was good for our film because people really embraced films, and particularly the I guess the themes that this film embraced, like community and the importance of family, were really embraced and well received over here.
That is terrific. So tell us what started the journey to adapt the Patricia Grace's book into a film like this?
Well, it had a long journey before Briar and I got kind of more tangibly involved. It had a really long journey from the time the book was published. Missy and Makareta, who was a mentor to Briar and I, had tried to make it along with Patricia, the novelist, almost from the time that it was published in 92, 93. And they just kind of met with a lot of obstacles from funding bodies, just not ready for Indigenous women to be telling stories about Indigenous women. So when Briar and I came to be involved, it had already had a really long journey, and we knew Makareta. Briar had a relationship with Patricia already, and we just both felt a really strong sense of obligation, I suppose, to continue the journey on behalf of both of those women. But also it was just a really exciting proposition because the book itself was always so emotive and engaging and interesting and poetic and lyrical. So as filmmakers, the challenges that adapting a novel like that offered us was really exciting as well. Briar, do you want to speak more to the process from your point of view as a writer?
I guess the process was really picking it up, and also I didn't read the scripts that had gone on before me, but the novelist Patricia had written a script by herself at some point after Missy and Makareta, the director, left the project, and so I used some of those scenes as an inspiration to sort of start building the film as I saw it around. And Patricia was my mother-in-law at one point in my life, so she became a script consultant for the first couple of drafts. So that was the process, and it wasn't a hard process because, weirdly, because it's such an epic novel, it should have been quite hard, but I had been privy to sitting in the room with Makareta and Patricia while they talked about their process of adaptation, and I had overheard, while I hadn't read the scripts, I had overheard they talked about the challenges they had, and of course one of the obvious challenges was it's an epic novel with lots of characters, and you know what to keep and what to let go of. And so the first thing I did was do a kind of cull in my head about letting go of certain characters and scenes and situations, and sometimes truncating others that I liked.
Wow, describing this book as an epic novel is quite a description, especially for some of us who haven't read the book. But it does sound like a lot of characters have actually been deleted from book to screen. Was there any scenes or characters that you looking back now that you kind of regretted, like you wish it was part of the movie?
Not really. We actually during the process of editing, there was a further few characters that we actually shot And so they didn't make it in because while those scenes were, the performances were beautiful and the scenes, we loved the scenes, for me at least, watching them complicated what was already quite a big story. So, even during the edit process, we let go of, several characters and moments that were in the novel.
And I think what the novel captures so beautifully is the nature of memory and the things that move you when you're a child. And it's a similar thing in reading the book, is that you remember these moments. For me, it had been 20 years since I'd read the novel, but I remembered the marble and I remembered the young boy being taken from her. So that in a way, the moments of real connection and real emotion are all of the ones that Briar kind of collected and put into the script anyway.
Now, to capture the emotions of the book, you ladies did a terrific job on the cinematography end, because you wanted to portray that, how can you say, visually, the emotions visually. Could you talk about using the cinematography through the different periods, trying to capture those emotions?
Yeah, one of the things we wanted to, there were a few things, there were so many things. It was such a sort of complex conversation, the cinematography. We wanted to capture the nature of time for us culturally, and that it's fluid, and that past, present, and future essentially all go hand in hand. And we wanted the film to feel contemporary and present, no matter what time period we were in, at the same time as our audience knowing that they were moving through time. We wanted to get a real sense of being with each of these characters in the moment. So that sense of being really close with them, experiencing the world as they experience it. And also we wanted to capture that, as I've described, the evocative nature of memory, of light and sound and small details, and the ways in which that actually does create emotion. So it's not, I mean, beautiful performances, but actually for an audience, I think a lot of the emotion is contained in the real close-up detail of the way that the women and the children experience the world. Yeah.
Now, what's even more fascinating for a lot of people to know is that almost the entire cast is casted from, I want to say, the indigenous, sorry if I mispronounce it, Maori.
Maori, yep, pretty good, pretty close.
Okay. Sorry, I never headed to New Zealand, or some of us here, on stateside aren't familiar with that culture. But talk about how important is a casting. Was it difficult to find, all the female actors for, the three generations? I mean, obviously Briar is available.
We were very spoilt for choice, actually. There's a lot of talent, and there's a big acting pool of Māori female and male actors in New Zealand. So, but what we did was we looked at the actors, or thought about the actors we most wanted between us to play versions of the characters. And so we had Rachel House, Tanya Heke, Anna Scottney. We both loved those characters, and with them in mind, we started to build the rest of the cast around them, thinking about how rather than looks, not just looks, but the energy of different actors, and how they would fit together and form different pieces of this sort of same puzzle. And we ran into a couple of blips when, for example, and I don't mean to say blip, but Nancy Brunning, who was one of our was an incredible Māori actress. She had cancer and she became very sick and unable to take the role that I played of older Makareta. So up until 2 weeks before production, before we shot, she had been cast, and we had worked the script around her. So at that point she was in a wheelchair, and we were thinking we could accommodate that. She was still very keen to play the role, but it just became too hard, and hence the reason I stepped up, auditioned, and took that role. So I never intended to play that character, but many years ago I worked in theatre, so I called on those old acting bones.
When we cast Briar, like as Briar talked about, the jigsaw of casting was really about finding actors and children who had a sort of energetic resemblance, because of course you can dye somebody's hair or signal in other ways to the audience that they're connected. But when we cast Briar, when Nancy was unable to do it, what it did mean is that energetically the next level down actors, the young adult actors, no longer energetically fit. So a week out from shoot, we had to swap them. So they had rehearsed those roles, they had done their costume fittings, they were embodying these characters, and then we had to do the old switcheroo with them, because it just didn't work anymore. And it was great. It ended up being great, but it just sort of shows you how our approach to casting kind of worked.
Well, that's very fortunate that all the pieces actually came together. Now, I'm curious though, is most of the crew also Maori for this project too?
No, not most. I don't exactly know what our we certainly, as a production company, Misconception Films, we try to have, we're always trying to have more than 50% female crew. In this particular instance, we were also trying to have a majority of Māori crew, but there's a lot going on in New Zealand all the time, so finding crews is actually quite difficult. And so certainly we did as much as we could in that regard. Our cinematographer was Māori, our costume designer was actually Samoan, so Pacific Islander, not Māori, but we had other female HODs and what have you. But actually I think more importantly, half of that film was shot in a tribal community. We got tribal funding to contribute to the film, and so all of the scenes that are shot, all of the community scenes are shot in that tribal area, with people from that area, both in internship positions and in catering and crewing, and also in front of the camera playing the community itself.
That's terrific. Now, for both of you, what are your ties to the the Maori tribe and culture?
So I come from the tribes Ngāti Awa, Ngāti Pikiao, and Te Whānau a Apanui. My father is Māori, my mother is Pākehā or European New Zealander, and I guess I grew up somewhat like Mata, a little bit divorced from my culture, and so my kind of life's journey is to reclaiming my sense of being Māori and learning my language and kind of getting to the point of just feeling comfortable participating in those things that make you feel incredibly disconnected when sort of in your bones you're something, but actually on the surface you don't necessarily know all the rules and ways of engaging. Briar?
So I grew up with a Pākehā or my father and a Māori mother, and my tribal areas are Ngāti Wai and Ngāpuhi, which is the north of the North Island and the kind of coastal regions, really beautiful area. And I also, like so many of us, particularly of our generation, I grew up without the language. So it was a language that was our parents' generation were hit in schools for speaking the language. So it wasn't something that was encouraged. But for me, I had a Pākehā or white father, but he really, when he married Mum, he really embraced the culture. So my dad strangely spoke the language and encouraged me to, be strong in my taha Māori or my Māori roots and my Māori heritage.
Wow. So how much outside consultation did you bring in to try to capture the essence of the Maori culture correctly into a film like this?
Well, I guess the thing is that there's, I think Briar as a writer inherently brings her Māori self to her point of view, to her writing. I think the novelist is Māori, and that's the same thing. The novel is inherently contains those things. But we, as well as ourselves being Māori, we brought on another producer, Libby Hakaraia, who is Māori, and she was really responsible for just making sure that the shoot was run in a way that honours tikanga, or the kind of the rules of our culture. And then when we shot in this tribal area, we also consulted with tribal elders about how to, because when you're shooting in a particular tribal area, they have their own guidelines around how things should be done, and we have a thing called tapu, and that is about what is restricted or what is sacred. And so you're always sort of dealing with how can we deal with these tapu or taboo areas, like filming a person pretending to be dead, for example, or filming a betrothal between two people in a way that honors that particular tribe and its particular view of these things. So yeah, absolutely, all the way through, as much as is available to us, we welcome and seek out that kind of advice, because it makes things more authentic and also makes things run more smoothly. You've got the gods on your side, it's all good.
Well, let me wrap it up with one more thing, because it seems like Patricia Grace wrote a beautiful novel, and this is a beautiful movie by itself. Are there considerations to possibly, because I understand she's a great Maori author, are there considerations of adapting more work from her down the road?
Yeah, I think so. I'm hoping. She's written quite a few novels, and they're all extraordinary. So I think this has kind of ignited a passion, for her work, even though she is one of our most loved authors here. And yeah, I'm starting to reread her book with a view to, what might be what could be the next film. She's in her 80s now. And I just wanted to say about her, she was with us with me throughout the development of the script, but she also came to set and was really blown away by the whole process of filmmaking, and was looking in the monitor and all of that. She just loved it.
That is great. And I think this movie is a terrific movie, because I'm going to be honest with you. I don't like crying, and you made me teary-eyed through this movie. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but you did it.
Yeah, that's basically our goal, is to make people cry. So thank you.
Well, thank you for this conversation. It's a terrific movie, and I'm so glad that you kept a lot of the essence of the book and the culture into a film like this. So hopefully we get to talk again on your next projects.
Thanks, Gag.